Hello, and welcome to The View from Swift Business Forum Ireland, filmed on location in Dublin. I'm Joy Macknight, Managing Editor at The Banker, and with me is Gulru Atak, Global Innovation Lead for Treasury and Trade Solutions at Citi, to talk about accelerating the banking industry's digital transformation. Gulru, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Joy.
So there's a lot of new emerging technologies coming into play, from APIs, application programming interfaces, to cloud, artificial intelligence, blockchain. How can banks really take advantage of these?
I think we discussed in the panel today as well in the morning. Let's not start with the technology, right? The customer expectations are changing. The business models, how especially our corporate clients are operating in, are drastically being either disrupted or reshaped up. So if we think about all these, how do actually banks compete with first each other, then with fintechs, and then maybe potentially the big tech giants we are hearing more and more entering into financial services business. And I really think that the technologies like API or cloud, they will be the drivers of these change coming from the business models and the customer expectations. Take open banking or PSD2 in Europe, for example, and open banking is being introduced in other countries other than Europe as well. So they will be driven by these technologies like APIs. Or how can banks take the advantage of their legacy, which is having a banking license? For banks like Citi, having a banking license in hundreds of countries is a big strength, right? It's legacy, but it's a positive legacy. But then how do we couple this with actually improving some of those relatively friction legacies to better technologies? And cloud is definitely an enabler of that because it gives the banks speed. It gives the bank to have flexible open source software that's actually opening new spaces and new ideas for our people in the bank.
Okay, and you touched upon how many countries Citi is in. It's a global transaction bank. How far is Citi itself along that digital transformation journey?
I think we had great progress. Are we there yet? Probably not. But I really started to see more and more especially the change of language, because it's important. How people speak is also important, right? We have started to introduce lean principles, design thinking principles into how we actually launch and develop solutions for our clients. We started to become more and more client-centric, taking the client from the earlier on the product launch journey, rather than introducing the solution, introducing the product and waiting for customers to use it. We are actually working hand in hand with our clients when launching new solutions. Coming from Mike Corbat to the entire organization, the mission is being the best for clients. Right? And in TTS, we say we are global, we are simple, and we are digital. So the entire language and messaging is going through. The mindsets are changing. It's not happening overnight. Revolutions happen overnight. Evolutions happen over time. So it is taking time. But I think now we are seeing more and more that fintech mindset being embedded into the banking DNA.
Excellent. And I know Citi has an innovation lab here in Dublin. What kind of advice could you give other banks in terms of working with fintechs?
Sure. First of all, I'm really proud because this is our 10th year anniversary as Dublin Innovation Lab. I mean, we were the first lab in the whole Innovation Lab network, and we are celebrating our 10th year, which is fantastic. It gives us pride, right? I think our engagement with fintech, like our innovation journey, has changed over time. Like what we used to talk about fintech being the biggest threat to banks, let's say 3-4 years ago, now has turned into competition, partnership. My advice to the banks who are partnering with fintechs would be to be very specific and focused on what problem are you trying to solve for. What client problem are you trying to solve for? Because then it gives you context and it actually a little bit limits, the environment. It's a big ecosystem, right, fintechs. The second one is to be really open to the fintech, talking about the challenges that we might as banks have. I'm telling this all the time to the fintechs that I talk to. I mean, definitely we have some policies, processes which we need to comply with. But when you're open about them, when you're open about the time frames, your own internal challenges, it's a two-way communication, right? The two parties should be able to understand each other. That's the second one. And then the third one is definitely to start with proof of concepts rather than going to scale in those partnerships, because sometimes what happens is that, yes, you start the journey, but the promises, I won't say the promises are not kept up, but the expectations might not be met. So it's always good to start with a proof of concept and then move to pilot and scale.
Okay, and my last question is, obviously we're in a very challenging environment on a whole bunch of different levels. So you have, let's say, geopolitical issues, there's still the regulatory challenge, and then competition as well. How can banks most effectively sort of navigate these challenges?
I think it's more about being flexible and dynamic, because if you think about political uncertainty, there is no expected timeline for a political conflict or Brexit or this and that happening in multiple countries, right? So being flexible and having a flexible culture which might actually respond to unexpected, events happening in different countries that you are operating in. That's one. Second, again, it's about innovation and being creative, having that mindset, right? Asking the question why. Responding to customers or sometimes regulators' expectations. That all comes with these agile, lean organizations, innovative organizations. When your people are ready to ask the question of why, be flexible and change the way that they are operating or the way that they are doing business, all of them actually comes with that. And the last one is probably around partnerships, especially if you think about cyber threat, financial crime, the power of multiple parties coming together and fighting against one enemy, let's say, right? It's the real power, because innovation is a village. You cannot really scale innovation or responding to digital disruption or other disruption happening on your own. It's more powerful when you have your partners, even sometimes your competitors, working hand in hand with you.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your insights, Gulru.
Thank you so much.